You are watching Tech Confessions, created by Amy Lewis and brought to you by VMware.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Gabriel.
Thank you, Amy, for having me.
Or should I call you Gabe since we've known each other so long?
I mean, I was Gabe as a kid, then I became Gabriel because it sounded professional.
I see.
But because we're friends, you can just call me, G-Money.
G-Money it is.
Yes.
So we're here on Tech Confessions talking about your software-defined moment. When did you have that light bulb between hardware and software?
Right. Interestingly enough, I got my career, I started out in tech support for a bulk mail software company. Essentially, I told old people to put the record in the player.
Well, that's a software-defined moment.
It was a software-defined moment, but it was I moved my way up the ladder into until I got into the sales space, right? Mm-hmm. And the first product I sold was HBA, converged adapters, and I'm like, is this really where I'm gonna go for the rest of my life? I'm gonna sell little cards that go into servers and stuff, and I started to move out of that space and into other things. And over the course of my career, I got to the point where I'm like, the hardware is like the least compelling piece of the stuff that we sell, right? Everybody was selling a box. The magic was what was inside the box. And that was one of the things that drew me to SolidFire when I came over on board, was that fact that everything we were doing is like, we weren't talking about the processors, we weren't talking about the memory or the speeds and the feeds so much, so we were talking about the outcomes that the customers could achieve through programmatic means, right? And that was something that was always really compelling to me, and I thought, if we really want to get to this next level, we want to emulate what all the cloud giants are doing, like Amazon and Google and Azure and whatnot. We have to embrace a software first, or a software defined essence, as it would be, or an infrastructure as code viewpoint, because so many things you can do in code are so much faster. I can do commits immediately. I can spin up a new instance immediately. I can continue to do my development instantly. And that whole move towards the DevOps focus, if you go back and start reading, Gene Kim's book, it really gets to that point where it's like the light bulb went off for a lot of people. Said the underlying physical pieces are valuable and they provide a lot of function, but everything that really matters happens in the software.
Well, question for you. So I think those of us who kind of cut our teeth on hardware, it's easy to think of those speeds and feeds sheets, right? They're comforting, right? You can see which one performed faster. How in this modern world, when you've had your software-defined moment, can you start to make comparisons between this software? How do we realign that sort of, old school comp card to our new way of thinking? How do we get smart? How do we get smart?
We continue to read. We continue to learn. We follow me on Twitter. You can follow me on Twitter if you want. Most of the time I'm just railing. But I think ultimately what it means is we have to sit down and really reevaluate what kind of outcome we want with our own career and the spaces we want to go into, right? I think a lot of us, it's really interesting what I've seen over the last 3 to 5 years. I got heavily involved in the VMware community very early on. I've been a vExpert for 7 years now. And a lot of us started to really kind of coalesce around VMware and the technology platform as they were making that shift from kind of like a single focused, we do a hypervisor, to expanding into more pieces. Now they do networking, now they do storage. They take all of the pieces that used to be physical assets and turn them into software-based assets, and then they package them together and they meet a certain set of outcomes. And the success that they've had with those technologies is proof point that that's the direction that everybody kind of wants to go. I make an analogy sometimes around, the technologies that we sell. We do have to sell boxes, right? Because you can
tech
control.
Runs on something. Software runs on something.
You can control the outcome or the expectations with the hardware appliance type model, but eventually at some point we want to get to that place where it can just run on anything, and we can do it in that respect. And I think that's, we're starting to see that now. And more in customer conversations I have is, why can't I just get this in software and download it and run it?
Oh wow, that's been actively requested. People are more
all
comfortable.
All the time. And we had a model of technology that would address that, but it was also something that kind of, it's easier said than done. Yes, I can download and run it, but then again, now do I have to dedicate a certain set of number of engineers to keep its care and feeding up and running? or can I just, because it's never going to get to that point where it just automatically works.
And so are people the new hardware?
People are the new hardware, there we go. I'll make the one analogy that I sometimes make is that I know that if I have an Apple phone, an iPhone, right, and that I'm going to have the same experience across all of them. Right, and it's the same application ecosystem, it's the same consistency experience. I'm paying the premium for that engineered appliance. But if I go to look at the Android ecosystem, there could be 500 different Android manufacturers, and there could be variances and differences between each one of them, and it could be about a certain amount of how much additional information or additional work you have to put into making it have that experience that you're looking for in terms of an outcome. And so there are trade-offs between either one of those. A lot of us that are looking to move into a software-defined world don't realize that the hardware lifecycle management aspects are way more complex than they really are. So, most of us, if I'm a traditional IT or tech shop, I'm not going, I would love to be able to download your software and just put it on any old box I have. But the reality is if you're going to do that at scale, it's a lot more different because now you're having to control, well, how many years do I have to keep this piece of physical hardware platform up and running? Can I support it for more than 5 years? Is there some regulatory thing? If I get a firmware issue that pops up, can I address that and fix that properly or quickly? So I think the appliance model and the hardware defined, or the hardware defined, but the appliance-based model is going to be around for quite some time as we transition to everybody being a cloud, or to everybody being more cloud-like or software-defined-like.
Right.
But the goal, I think, is to actually get to being where it's super simple, and it is super software-defined.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for bringing your confession here.
Thank you. I'm going to take a nap now.
When you're ready to make your tech confession, join us at TechConfessionstheshow.com.